All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to ATD Talks Talent. I am here with Allison and Erin. My name is Avra Basov. I am our brand engagement and strategic communications manager here at ATD. Been here since June 2017. Today is our fourth episode of ATD Talks Talent, and we're going to be talking about community, connection, and networking. So, Allison and Erin, can you share your roles at ATD and a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Allison Rafty. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My role here at ATD, I'm the membership marketing manager. So I really focus on letting people know about ATD, how they can get involved in membership, and then once they're members, how they can really get the most of their membership, get involved in the community, stay engaged, and again, make the most of those benefits.
Amazing.
And hi, everyone. I'm Erin Murphy. I am the Senior Manager of Membership and Chapter Strategy here at ATD, and I have been with the organization for more than 7 years now, which just made me think about.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Right?
Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time to be here to talk about, one of those really broad topics, but I'm excited to kind of dig into the specifics. But first and foremost, it's ATD Member Appreciation Month. So happy last day of ATD Member Appreciation Month. In both of your roles, you deal with our community members all the time. What have you learned about our ATD community over this last month?
So I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that our community is not only incredibly talented, but they're really quick thinking and nimble. Over the summer, I had the opportunity to actually meet with a few members over Zoom calls, of course, socially distanced. But we had the opportunity to meet, and they shared with me firsthand how they've adapted their daily work to a remote environment. And I was just blown away by all of their success stories. They were positive. They were upbeat. They had such great things to share, and they even had celebrations. There were huge wins that came out of this for them. And it was just really inspiring to me in my role here at ATD to hear how well our members adapted and everything that they were actually able to accomplish in such a short amount of time and just run with it. So that's really one of my biggest lessons over the last months from our ATD members.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I would agree. I think everything that Allison said is absolutely spot on about our members. I think the term that really comes to mind the most for me is resilient. And I think that's true very much in everything that Allison just shared about our members and how they've kind of operated professionally. But I can really speak personally to our chapter leaders, that real specific community of volunteer leaders that help run our chapters all across the United States. And truly what we've seen through their ability to use Allison's terminology of agile, we've really seen them be able to flex and grow and adapt in so many ways that I have been left thinking about these past 6 months, thinking that, wow, adversity really did spark innovation and creativity for them. And it's been stellar to witness. That doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. And so I want to recognize all of their efforts and work. And I think that's true of any of our members, chapter leaders, members, all of our volunteers as well.
Absolutely. That ability for all of our talent development professionals, whether they're members or chapter leaders or anyone else in the broader community, to pivot and adapt, which was our TD Magazine cover story this month, has just been such a ringing theme of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to talk about community, connection and networking in this virtual environment, which we'll get into in just a couple minutes. But I just want to know, from your perspective, why are community connection and networking so important for talent development professionals?
Do you want to kick us off, Erin?
Sure. So analyzing this from a kind of pre-pandemic mindset, right? Just in general, I think the community that our profession offers is really pertinent, because I think the one common phrase I hear all the time from members and from chapter leaders alike are, oh my gosh, I found my people. And it just is so indicative of there's this need to fill of this. You want to find people who understand your challenges and your successes, who can help you grow and help you celebrate. So I think community connection and all of the work that we do with chapters, and I know that Allison and her team do with membership, just kind of personifies that. So being able to help connect each other, whether it be a mentor and a mentee, whether it be peers within the same industry, it's really rewarding. I think there's a ton of different reasons as to why you would connect. It could be sheer fun. It could be that networking piece, right? But there's also so much that you can get from those kind of interactions, and being able to help facilitate them is very rewarding.
Yeah, I would agree. I think also having this network really creates this crowdsourcing community, right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm one to be like, oh, how do I do this? Someone else must have done it. Let me go and check it out on Google. But having a community of peers that know your unique struggles and have probably been down this road before really is the best place to go and just ask them. Find out, what have you done? What's worked? What's failed? What can I improve on? So I really think having that community and connection, in addition to what you said, Erin, of just people who get you, they're your people, also just helps help you do your work better. They could be inspiring, they can be uplifting, and just that pat on the back of, getting a pat on the back, I think, from people who really understand your work and know what you do. When someone who walks in your shoes gets it and says, that was a really great job, you feel so good. So I think that's really, important as well, in addition to the resources and the practical help that they can provide.
Yeah, those are both really great answers. What I'm taking away from this is that, yes, there are people who are doing all of this similar work, and even in these uncertain and, times that require agility, we are still relying on each other and the people that, no one has all the answers right now. But we still have this community, we still have these connections, and we still have this network to, all be stronger together, to use one of the common phrases of 2020, but in the most sincere way possible, right? So shifting a little bit as we talk about this virtual environment, and while, some offices and workplaces and schools and everyone is navigating kind of this in between of going back into person, in this predominantly virtual environment, and in talent development in general, like, any tips for how to network? And what are those ways that ATD offers our community those connection and networking opportunities?
So I would say, for one, just in this virtual environment, I would describe myself as a shy extrovert. So this has been really great for me. This virtual environment definitely provides a good opportunity for someone like me who might be shy to reach out in person to reach out on the virtual conference. I know when I attended the spring virtual conference, I was more involved on the chat message boards and seeing what everyone else was saying and getting involved in those conversations. And that is not something I would have done in person. So that, for me personally, has been really great, and has been a way that I've personally expanded my network within, the TD community itself. I think some of the things that ATD offers as far as networking, so definitely at the conferences and events, especially now that they're virtual for the most part, I mean, that's been really helpful this year, because you do have access to a much wider variety of people than you would even if you were attending in person. You're able to see all the sessions and everyone who's attending them. So I think that's a really great way. And I'll turn it over to Erin to talk a little bit more on the local level, because I think that's where it really shines even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Pre-pandemic, mid-pandemic, right? Networking still remains a focal point for our chapters. They certainly offer professional development through their programs, but reserving time, for networking is just as critical, whether we're doing that in person or virtually. I will say it's a little harder to do virtually sometimes, typically in a room full of people, you can navigate from one group to another. How do you facilitate that via a Zoom or a WebEx? So I've been loving watching our chapters grow and experience with non-traditional ways of making networking happen and making it effective and efficient. So that's been really fun to watch. I think the biggest thing as we kind of move forward in I hate to use the term, but I'm going to do it, in this new normal of ours, is how do we continue to create meaningful connections and allow for networking where we also have to battle virtual fatigue. Becoming a Zoombie is a very real fear for many. I know I could certainly become a Zoombie at some point in the day based on how many virtual meetings I've had, and that's normal.
Real quick, you want to explain what that is?
I would love to. I heard this phrase, I believe, from one of our chapter leaders, and I have just run with it. So a Zoombie is essentially a zombie, but you're created via Zoom. Essentially, it is fatigue from a number of virtual meetings, and I think it's a different type of exhaustion than even just kind of a long day in the office is, or what it was in months past. So being very mindful of that, and so again, figuring out ways that we can cater to networking without creating that effect. So that could be, we do some games. That could be, we have icebreakers. Maybe you're connecting for a certain reason. I mentioned mentors before. It could be a mentor group. It could be a study group for certification. So figuring out ways to connect and making those meaningful. I will say the other thing that's been incredibly impressive over the past 6 months has been, our chapters cater to local areas for the most part, primarily in person. So the Houston chapter tends to grab people from the Houston area, just like the Metro DC chapter focuses on Maryland, DC, and Virginia. What has been just awe-inspiring to me has been chapter leaders telling me that people from all over the world have been participating in their virtual meetings because they can, and it's accessible to them. So it is a one silver lining of everything that we're going through, is being able to expand their reach and also provide services and support to other people who are clearly looking for them. So that's been tremendous to see, and also not necessarily something I predicted through all of this.
Yeah. And just to, kind of call out what Allison said and what you're saying, like the boundaries that may have been in place before are no longer there, right? So attending a virtual conference is much easier because your company then doesn't have to pay for travel and lodging and all of that, and can then bring more people potentially from your team or organization to an event so that you're all, I know we're seeing that with a lot of our conferences, which is amazing. And even on that individual level too, right? Like people are in some ways like craving that kind of connection and just people finding their people. And there are so many other opportunities and ways to do that in this environment. So that's, to use your phrase, definitely a silver lining in all of this. Shifting a little bit into, what are some of those ways that you're actually seeing folks connect virtually in these meaningful ways?
So I think sticking on the professional development level, I've been really impressed by the number of people that have started book clubs and really sticking with book clubs. I'm a reader. I love my local library. So that really just warms my heart in so many ways. But I think that's, a really great thing because we can get into so many Zoom meetings. So having some of these Zoom meetings that are fun, but with that meat behind them, there's a real good purpose here other than just connecting. The book clubs are great. There's some podcast groups that I've seen come up really talking about, again, meaningful podcasts. What are these meaningful discussions that we're having? And I think that's been really, really inspiring and helpful too, of just, we can do this stuff when we're not together. And like Erin said, like it does break boundaries because it's not geographic anymore. I'm no longer running from the work office to go home to go meet this other group outside to, talk about this professional development book or this book, this podcast or anything like that. Like I'm there, I'm home, I'm here, I'm ready to log in and go. So it really, in some ways, is easier to do these things and not have an excuse. But yeah, I think, for me, the book clubs, the podcasts, those creative ways have really been, meaningful additions to the Zoom. And it's something that I'm willing to do after hours, right? I can spend another hour or two on the computer to do something like that and grow and still have that connection.
Yeah, sorry. I agree. Hearing a little bit of an echo, but I'm going to fly through it because you know what? We're used to this in 6 months of pandemic. So I completely agree with everything Allison said. And I think, I kind of hinted at it because I just get so excited to talk about chapters and all the things that they offer. that a lot of those innovative ways to connect virtually happened pre-pandemic. And the beautiful thing about it is they've been able to shift and offer them virtually as we continue to kind of operate out of our homes. So I think it's been really wonderful to see those book clubs, those podcast groups thrive, but they're still able to support mentoring groups. They're still able to support study groups. The other thing that a lot of our chapters offer are what we call special interest groups, or SIGs. Similar to like a podcast group or a book group, you're connecting on a topic though. So maybe that topic is coaching, maybe it's e-learning, maybe it's you're around your profession, you're a consultant or a solo practitioner, and that's the people that you really want to learn from and grow from. Those are still being offered. So I think it really is up to the individual to figure out how they connect, who they want to connect with, and how many people. Because you can go from a general chapter program to something a little bit more nuanced and catered to you and your needs. So I do like that flexibility that chapters afford you, again, even virtually, which has been just really wonderful to see that those services continue.
Yeah, and it's, I think we touched on this a little bit before, but I will be very interested to see what we are able to take from this era into whatever is next, right? So like those connections and this kind of networking, like what are those things that we can keep those boundaries down for once things get back to normal, to the new normal, insert phrase here.
Mm-hmm. And I would also say too, you know, what are the things we don't miss and we don't need to take back, right? I personally hope that comes out of this too, of now that we've had this opportunity to try work a different way and to try networking a different way and try these other connections, what do we want to keep? What don't we? You know, and really find that niche for everyone that really works, just to keep this really positive, to keep those boundaries separate and just, you know, connect in person. That's important. It's good to have these connections, but also what do we like of this virtual world that we just want to stick around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always learning. Definitely always learning in this environment and this year in general. Our last question about, you know, community and connection and networking kind of is, you know, ATD specific, but what are these benefits of volunteering and getting more involved in ATD?
I can take that one first. So I've been highlighting chapter leaders, right, this entire time we've been together. And I mentioned early on that chapter leadership is a volunteer role. So I personally in my role work with about a little more than 800 volunteer chapter leaders who support our 99 chapters across the country. That is a great way to get involved. One, I think what it does is allows you to start to make those local connections, right? But it's also a professional development opportunity. So one of the things we hear most often from our chapter leaders is, you know, let's say finance, for instance. Maybe in my full-time 9-to-5 role, I don't really get to dabble in finance, but maybe I have my MBA and I want to flex those skills and I want to give back to the industry, the profession, and my community. That's a terrific way to do that. I would also argue maybe you have no experience in finance at all, or planning programs, planning events, but it's something you've always kind of wanted to do, or maybe you even have to do it in your job now and you don't really have training around it. Chapter leadership could be a great way to make that happen. So it's very much on the job training as well. So you can really make it whatever you want it to be. And again, you're forging those connections, you're finding the people who understand you. So there's just so many wins involved with it that I can't emphasize it enough.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. The ability to build out your resume in that type of safe space is invaluable. It's a great way to learn those skills that you don't have, flex them, learn from someone who's done them before. And again, you're in a place where you have that space to learn. So really a great way to try something new, see if you like it. In some ways, you can think of it like an internship. Do I really want to go down this path with my career? I'm not sure. Let me test the waters and then go from there. So I think that's, you know, a great reason to get involved. But other ways to get involved on the chapter level, that's a fantastic one. On the local level, there's also some more subtle ways to dip your toes in the water. You know, we do look for members to help write some blogs for ATD and respond on discussion groups. People don't often think of that as volunteering, but it is. that is time you are taking out of your day to help somebody else do something. So I definitely think those are also really great productive ways to volunteer. It still helps your resume. You're still getting something out of it. You have a tangible blog. You've shared an idea. And again, maybe it's part of that crowdsourcing, right? I'm sharing this idea I'm interested in, I want to know more about, and let me get some feedback from the group. Let me see what's going on. But I've done it in a formal blog. So you are a volunteer. Surprise, you have volunteered. So I think that's, also something to consider with the volunteering of just, getting involved doesn't have to be quite as formal. And it can ebb and flow depending on what time you have to give. So I understand that everyone has different seasons in their lives and different amounts of times that they can give depending on that season. So finding the right way to give back is really great, and just makes you feel good at the end of the day. Like, yeah, I helped them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have this incredible network to tap into. And one of my favorite parts of Member Appreciation Month was actually reaching out to specific members, one of them being Elaine Beek, talent development luminary. And one of the things that she said was that the more I give to ATD, the more I feel like I get back, which I just thought was like, obviously gold for us, but it's one of those things where for any organization or cause or hobby that you put the time into, you're gonna get so much out of it. So just wanted to end our wrap up of our questions on community networking and connection.
Can I end the end of your wrap up? Can I just
Yeah.
I would just be remiss if I didn't mention that if you don't see an opportunity that currently exists, but you have an idea, I think I speak for both Allison and myself on behalf of chapters to reach out, and we'll find a way to do that. So I know that a lot of people have used these past 6 months or so to learn and grow and develop new skills, but you can perhaps put your sourdough bread starter away and maybe explore some talent volunteer opportunities, or you can do both. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Just had that bread joke prepared for a bit, so I wanted to use it, Avra.
Oh, you got to let that dough rise sometimes,
Oh, very good. Very good.
All right, shifting a little bit into these additional questions that we're asking everyone who comes on the show. The first question is, what is a skill or experience not listed on your LinkedIn profile?
Okay, I'll go first. So one thing not listed on there. So when I started college, I started as a meteorology major and actually worked for the state climatologist and was a weather person on our local college channel. So I can help you with weather reports. I can let you know about snow to rain ratios and melting and everything you've never wanted to know about weather. I can probably get you started with.
I love it. Amazing. Erin, how about you?
I can't beat that. But I've taken a pause with COVID, but I'm someone who practices what I preach, and I choose to give back by, I actually teach bar classes. I'm a part-time fitness instructor. Again, haven't made the virtual leap into fitness yet, but it's something that I truly do miss. And it's actually one of the things that has allowed me to connect with our members, because I don't really get many opportunities to lead sessions and groups of people. So it's one of the ways that kind of felt like I can connect by facilitating a little bit of an exercise, if you will.
Amazing. Okay, this next one is perhaps a toughie, but hopefully you have some answers saved up. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I can go first. So I've thought about this. I was like, do I want to be funny and make a joke? Do I want to be serious? And I chose to go serious. And here's the best advice, which is you never know what someone is battling internally. So you don't know what struggles they're walking in. And I've been thinking pretty much about that daily in these new times, because we truly don't. I think these past 6 months have been physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. And so why I reflect on that phrase is I'm continually learning empathy day by day by day. And having that understanding and leading that way has been really helpful for me. Because again, these are trying times. These are unprecedented times. I don't know about you guys, but I myself have not been through a global pandemic. So feeling how to feel and how to operate and how to navigate is hard. But knowing that we're kind of all experiencing this together is helpful. And knowing that some people might need more grace one day than another is really important, I think, to carry on.
Yeah, love that answer. Thank you. Allison, how about you?
That is awesome, and definitely shows as being your colleague. I definitely always feel like you give me a lot of grace, and I appreciate that. I think for me, it's just remembering that we're all a work in progress, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from those mistakes. We should. That's why we make them. Nothing perfect ever started out perfect, right? So just always learning, being okay if I make a mistake, learning from that mistake every single time, not letting one go by without a lesson, and just applying that same to other people. So like you said, Erin, that empathy of just everyone is allowed to make a mistake. And just having the grace to help them learn as well. If that's the space that I'm in to teach them in that moment, that's great. Otherwise, just understanding how I would have done it differently and learning from their mistake and taking that opportunity for them to inadvertently teach me something. Is, you know, just some of that best advice. Just there's a lesson in everything if we're willing to look for it.
Sure.
Amazing. Thank you both for those. I'm gonna end on this question. So what is something that you're looking forward to over the next month or so?
I could go first. So definitely looking forward to the change of seasons. Let's start with the simple pleasures in life. There's nothing better than walking my dog and seeing the beautiful leaves changing colors and just enjoying that crisp weather, throwing a vest on and snuggling up to a pumpkin spice latte. There's just, that's where it is. And I can admit that. I'm okay with it. So really looking forward to that. And then I'm just excited to see as well, with the changing of the seasons, as people are getting used to this new normal, what things just start to look like. What do the next round of virtual conferences look like? What's new and exciting that people are going to add? What are the innovations we're going to see coming of this that we can actually put into play at the beginning of next year or the end of this year? So I'm just really excited to see, with the changing of seasons, the changing of new ideas, innovation, just where things are headed and seeing where they're going.
I agree. I identify with you. I am very much eager to see some orange leaves, to have a pumpkin beer, and, you know, hang out in sweater weather, as I call it. So I agree. But I think that's a perfect transition that we did not plan, which is this time of year always reminds me of what happens in October pretty annually for chapters, and that is our annual Chapter Leaders Conference. Now that looks a little bit different this year because we are going virtual, but nonetheless, we will be connecting. And to our conversation about breaking boundaries, we have higher attendance than we've ever had, which is extraordinary. But I think the reason why I love this conference so much is this is a conference reserved for our volunteer chapter leaders, and everything you learn there is on chapter operations. So I think, one, it's incredibly amazing to see people dedicate time out of their day to learn more about their volunteer role. Certainly, I hope they get something out of it that also caters to their full-time job, but it's wonderful to see. And, you know, 7 years I've been with ATD, so a lot of these people have grown to become friends and family. So I love that, and that is continuing. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, well, one, that's happening next week. So it's happening pretty quickly here for us. So we're very excited. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out my fellow chapter services team members who have made that switch happen. Samantha, Keisha, Lauren, and Molly have been tremendous. So kudos to them. I know we're all excited to celebrate and kind of live out our first virtual ALC ever, because it is also our 50th anniversary too. So we are celebrating a little bit differently than planned, but we're still celebrating.
I was going to say the 50th anniversary milestone, we knew was going to be different. Just not the direction different we initially planned for, huh?
Right, a little different, but still fun.
Yes.
Going to be amazing.
Yes, indeed. Awesome. Well, again, I mean, I think the importance of community cannot be stated enough at this moment in time. So thank you both for all of the work you do every day for our members and customers and chapter leaders and just the greater talent development community overall. And thanks personally for, being great colleagues and taking the time out of your day for this little episode. Something that we definitely started because of 2020. So talk about opportunities abound. Definitely something that came from that. Please do join us for our next episode of ATD Talks Talent on October 7th. We're going to be talking about sales enablement ahead of ATD's Sell Conference. And to everyone out there watching or who will see this, thank you all for your hard work in this space and beyond, and just stay healthy and safe. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Bye, everyone.